One hello. This is episode number 5 or 6. 5 or 6 of the OverDubs podcast. I am Austin Keetup. Your host with me today is Mr. Russ Robinson. How you doing?
Not too bad, brother. How are you?
Pretty good. For those unaware, Russ is a former admin yet still active member on MyGN'R Forum. He's moderated several forums over the years. He'd be hard pressed to find a bigger fan of this band than he is.
I should say have been. I still love GNR's music like I like anybody else. If you push play on nearly any GNR song, of course I'm gonna dig it. But really since like 2016, I've become less and less of a fan of what they are now. So I mean I'm a huge GNR fan. I would never walk back all the time that I love the band, and I still very much love their music. But there's only so much time in the day you can devote to the same 5 albums.
Yeah, that's fair.
You know what I mean?
And you got fucking Prince over there putting out 40 albums.
Yeah, you know what I mean? You have artists like, you mentioned Prince, Michael Jackson. And I'm trying to think. I know there's a few others who, since they've passed away, have put out more albums than GNR has in the 30-some years they've been around.
You're saying Michael Jackson since, because I know you're like a huge fan, since 2009?
Well, he's put out
more albums than there are in the entire Guns discography.
Michael's put out 2 studio records since 2009, whereas GNR has put out 5 total studio records, right?
Right.
And then Prince has had at least 5 come out since 2016 of new studio material that we haven't heard.
Okay. I was really a big fan of that one that he, it was literally just him and the piano. And I think
piano and a microphone.
Like screwing around with it. Yeah,
yep.
That one.
Yeah, you have that. You have Welcome to America. He's got another brand new album of material coming out in July of all brand new material that we haven't heard. And then if you count just the deluxe box sets alone, like there's been a 9 LP version of 1999 come out and a 11 LP version of Sign of the Times that came out, that both of them have, one has a double live album in it and the other has a triple live album in it. But other than that, both sets have like 4 full LPs of music we've never heard. So
that's insane.
Yeah. And then piano and a microphone. And yeah, there's been other brand new stuff that we've never even heard that's come out since he passed away.
Yeah. And it's even more ridiculous because it's this one guy.
Right. Yep.
And he obviously worked with, session musicians or whoever was in his band and whatnot. But
yeah, I mean, at a bare minimum, he had branded bands. He had The Revolution, New Power Generation. Right before he passed away, the last group that he was working with was phenomenal. Third Eye Girl. And then just a who's who of anybody who went through Minneapolis, all the guys from Mint Condition and Larry Graham. And I mean, it's just insane the amount of people that he worked with at the time that he was alive. And a lot of those musicians have a lot of work that we've never heard that's just now coming out as well.
Yeah. I heard a story from a friend, actually, and I think I'm like 99% sure it was Prince, but from what I remember, he had some issue with the label. So then I think he went out on the road with a completely different name, playing like Prince songs, but he wasn't Prince.
No, that's very famously in the mid 90s. He completely changed his name, not just on the road, professionally altogether. He changed so the symbol that you see commonly associated with Prince.
Yeah.
He legally changed his name to that symbol to get out of his record contract with Warner. So Warner was really, really adamant that, oh, no, we have Prince under contract. He has to do what we want to do. So he was like, okay, well, I'm not Prince anymore. And at the time, in the mid-90s, a lot of music fans and the music media was like, oh, that's so weird. Oh, how full of yourself do you have to be to change your name to an unpronounceable symbol, and it was a brilliant business move. And the first thing that he did, because his side of the story was that Warner was restricting him and telling him that he couldn't release music as often as he wanted to. And obviously, after the discussion we just had, he was extremely prolific and had a ton of music to share. So when he changed his name to the symbol, the first thing he did was release a record called Emancipation that was 3 CDs long and 60 minutes each. So the first thing he did,
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and it's funny. The CDs are sequenced to where if you get an original copy of Emancipation on CD, each of the 3 CDs is 60 minutes on the nose, like to the second. But that's putting your money where your mouth is, right? Like we hear other people, I don't want to name names, Axl Rose, who for years have complained, everything is everyone else's fault, right? GNR can't,
they can't do it because of the label.
Oh, that dastardly, yeah. Oh man, that damn label, and that manager and whatever else. Well, Prince figured a way through it, and not only that, but the thing is, Prince didn't just complain up a bunch and then do all this stuff for publicity. He put his money where his mouth is, and he delivered on the promise. Like I said, the first thing that he did when his name got changed is he delivered 3 albums of material under the Emancipation title, like 3 60-minute CDs, instead of just going, oh, okay, well, I got all this and I got my publicity out of it. No, oh, woe is me. I still can't deliver this. Like he delivered on what he was complaining about.
Let's talk about live shows, because I saw a post from you like 2 or 3 years ago on the forum, and you were talking about, I think you were listing off literally all the artists you've seen.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it was insane, man.
Yep. It's funny when you sent over the notes and it says one of the things on your agenda was best and worst live shows you've seen, and I saw that and I said, "Oh, Jesus Christ!" Like I don't, what I mean? Like unfortunately, I know the worst show I've ever seen. Number one with Bullet, and we'll get to that in a minute. But best show, I mean, dude, it's a laundry list. I mean, the first concert I ever went to in my life was Def Leppard on the Hysteria tour. Okay, so no disrespect to Vivian Campbell or any of the material that they've done. In the mid 90s and since. But the first time I ever physically saw a rock concert in person was the Hysteria lineup of Def Leppard, as in like with Steve Clark promoting what is arguably their best record. And Queensryche opened the show before they were even big,
This would have been, what, 88?
Geez, I want to say it was fall of 87, either fall of 87 or I think I always remember that wrong because Hysteria came out in 87, but it did not break until like mid 88. Like the record label and everybody was like, okay, well, this is we're done here. And then Pour Some Sugar on Me came out and the record blew up. So I probably didn't see it till fall of 88 at a guess. But first, I think because of the year the record came out, I always think it's 87. But, I'm a huge Black Crowes fan. I've seen the Black Crowes over 25 times. I've seen, Bon Jovi, Aerosmith. I'm trying to think of the ones I know I've seen over 20 times. Bon Jovi, Aerosmith, GNR. I don't know. There's just there's a ton of acts I've seen well over 15 or 20 times. And then let me put it this way. As far as going to a concert, there's nobody that I've ever wanted to see in concert that I didn't get a chance to see, except for Elvis Presley, because I was 2 when he passed away. So, I wasn't able to convince my parents to take me to an Elvis Presley concert at the age of 2. Queen, I didn't see with Freddie because they had stopped touring by the time I was old enough to go to a concert.
Right.
And I didn't see the White Stripes together, Meg and Jack as the White Stripes. I've seen Jack White probably, 10 times or so since he's gone solo.
About like 4 times. I think he's part of his fan club too. Yeah.
And I've seen that. I've seen Jack a ton, but Nirvana, Rage Against the Machine, Alice in Chains with Lane Staley.
You ever catch MJ?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I saw Michael on the Bad tour about probably like a month after I saw Def Leppard on the Hysteria tour. But I saw Michael on the Bad tour at an arena show of all places in here in Detroit. because at the time he was already big enough to where he couldn't play anything under a stadium. But we had a new building here. At the time, it was a new building, the Palace of Auburn Hills. It's since then, I've seen every show ever at that show, and the place has been demolished since then. But at the time, it was a brand new venue. And because Detroit is special to him and so on, he did like 7 or 8 shows at an arena instead of 1 or 2 nights at the stadium. So I got to see him on one of those nights, and I never did get to see him again. But that tour was the last tour where he was singing the entire show live. So I'm cool with that. Like, some of my favorite Michael Jackson songs are on Dangerous and History, which came out after Bad, but I'm happy. Well, I love the Bad album, and I'm happy to have seen a show where he was still singing the whole show live. So if I would have seen him seen him on Dangerous or History, I'm the picky enough guy to where I probably would have been like, "Well, he's not singing this song live," which I can, of course, I can justify to a certain extent with how hard he was working to entertain. But at the same time, I know I would have been like, "Oh man, I wish he was singing live." So I'm glad I got to see the show that I did.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm going to touch on Dangerous in a minute, because I have a couple thoughts on that. But tell me about that, like the show that you saw on the Bad tour, because it's just fascinating to me, because I myself, I'm aware of how amazing a performer the guy was, but I've never actually seen too much live footage.
Yeah, well, and honestly, if you're gonna go look for live footage to watch, honestly, I would probably tell you the best show to get an overall idea is there's a show from Bucharest in 1992 that's readily available. You can just go on YouTube and type in Michael Jackson Bucharest, and it'll pop up. And he's singing the majority of that show live, I think, but it will give you an idea, man, of that dude would come out and look at the audience for, a solid uncomfortable 2 minutes in one direction, and people would just be fainting, like flat out falling all over themselves. And then he'd move his head, and like a whole section of people would faint, and that's to start the show. So you really get an idea of the guy was on a whole different level performance wise than any other person who's ever walked on stage.
I think I saw a show from 95 where he came out of a spaceship or something like that.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember what, it might have been Prague or something like that, but it was somewhere in Europe. Yeah. He just came out of there and for 5 minutes just looked at everyone, and they were losing their shit.
Oh yeah. Yep. And that's how it was when I saw him in 87. It was, people were just losing their goddamn minds, and he didn't even, move yet. And, the workmanship involved, the dude, we were exhausted from watching him, just keeping up with him going side to side on the stage and all the dance moves. And, you can't help but move when you hear all those MJ cuts. And, I can't even imagine having the ability to keep up with performing that show. It was just stunning. So that's why it's hard. It's such a cop out to be like, oh, I've seen so many great shows, but it's hard to say. But, I think one of the best concerts I've ever seen in my whole life would have been, I had the privilege of seeing Prince 4 times. And the last time that I saw Prince was about a year before he passed away. And, if you were to shake me awake in the middle of the night, go, oh, we have your wife hostage, you have to tell us what your favorite concert is, I would probably say that one, Prince in 2015. The dude played for 3.5 hours and played every song you could possibly want to hear. Deep cuts for people like me that, he would go into songs and I would shit myself, and the guy next to me would be like, I've never heard this song. And I'm like, shut up. You're ruining it. This is the one I want to hear. And he played damn near every instrument on the stage at some point, sang better on a lot of songs than he did on the studio versions 35 years before that. It was just stunning. It's probably a 5-way tie for what I'd say my best concert of all time is. But, when you have several Garth Brooks performances, at least one Michael Jackson, several Prince performances, GNR performances spanning from 91 to 2016 to work with, it gets dicey real quick trying to say which one's the absolute best, you know?
Yeah, that's fair. Cause like I said, I just hadn't been going to concerts until, up until the last like 4 years or so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
yeah, I definitely got hooked.
I don't have nearly as large or impressive as a repertoire.
Well, I mean, first of all, I got hooked at a very young age. I don't sport at all. Like, I don't sports in any way. I don't watch sports. I don't talk about sports. I don't play sports. The music has been my full-on passion, and I truly love so many different genres. I know you and I have talked before about the vinyl collection that I have, and I don't collect records just to collect. I love every album that I have, and I'm glancing across the room right now, and literally the front section of one of my sections of records has Marvin Gaye and Ice-T sitting right next to each other. With
I love that.
Yeah, and I can see Kenny Wayne Shepherd, Simon and Garfunkel, the Stones, and Warrant from here. And so anytime any of those acts, well, not Marvin Gaye, but anytime any of those acts came through, I was just like, well, man, I got to go. I got to go see this. I can only think of one show I ever was like, oh, I should see that band because they're supposed to be a thing. I went and saw the Grateful Dead in '94, just because I was like, yeah, I don't really like the Grateful Dead, but everybody goes and sees the Dead in concert. But other than that, every show I've ever gone to has been like, damn it, I love this artist, at least one song by this artist, and I want to go, and check out the show. And I've been rewarded so many times with just so many killer, just incredible performance. Well, okay, I'm totally rambling now, so take out whatever you want of all this. But so the actual brand name Pink Floyd, like I'm a huge Pink Floyd fan, and I've only seen Pink Floyd, the brand, live in concert twice. They played Detroit 2 nights in a row in 1994, and I went to both shows. And I say the brand Pink Floyd because it was the edition without Roger Waters, and people get picky about that. So whatever. I've seen Roger Waters like 11 or 12 times on his own. So I'm fair and balanced about this whole situation with Pink Floyd. But so when Floyd came, I bought tickets to both shows, and a lot of people I know who are huge Pink Floyd fans were like, why are you going to see Pink Floyd 2 nights in a row? Like, they always play the exact same set list. And I was like, yeah, but it's going to be Pink Floyd 2 nights in a row though. Like, who gives a shit if they're playing the same set list? Yeah. So I was the only person who went to both shows. I had some friends who went to Thursday night and some friends that went to Friday night, but I was the only one that went to both shows. So we go Thursday and we get a Pink Floyd concert. It's fucking awesome. It's, if you ever looked up the Pulse tour on YouTube or whatever, that's the show that I saw. And it was amazing. The second night we get in the door and they changed their set list. They opened with a different song the second night than they did the first night. And I was already feeling all sorts of justified. I was like, they changed the set list. And then the second half, they did the entire Dark Side of the Moon for the first time since 1975.
That's nuts.
Yeah. And that's a huge reward as a fan to be like, well, I'm going to go 2 nights in a row and I'm going to take shit from my friends. And then when I go, the band's going to be like, oh, and by the way, we're going to do this huge gargantuan fucking history making thing. And they did that every night of the tour after that first time in Detroit, and it ended up being the Pulse live album is what makes up half of that live album is then doing the Dark Side of the Moon. But the first time they did it in 19 years was there that night, where I went to the second show. So again, to say that I have an embarrassment of good shows to talk about would be an understatement. But I can tell you the worst one for sure.
Yeah, let's touch on that. You mentioned you were going to bring that one.
Yeah, I can tell you the worst show. So there's an artist, a recent artist named Elle King.
Never heard of him.
Okay, well, it's a female. It's ELL. Her first name's Elle, so ELLE. Last name is King, and she's actually. And I didn't know this until probably like a year ago. I don't know if the name Rob Schneider rings a bell for you, but he was.
Yeah, I know who he is.
Okay, Deuce Bigelow and all that. She's his daughter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Really?
Yeah, and now she had a record come out probably about 5 years ago or so. And, I said, well, fuck yeah, man, I love this song, and hell yeah, let's go see her. So she was coming to like, I don't know, like a 400-seater or whatever. And again, like I've said for all these other artists, I was like, you got a song I like, I'm going to go. And it was easily the worst concert I've ever seen in my whole life. Like, and to be clear, I'm not the guy, you don't have to sound just like the record. You sure as hell don't have to do the same set list all the time. All I ask is that you care about being there, that you appreciate the audience, and that you put your all into it. And this woman, I don't know, I don't know if she was having a bad night. I've never watched any other live performances of her, so I don't know if this is a regular thing or what, but she just looked like she wanted to be anywhere else but there. She was barely even trying to sing the songs. And this is going to be rich coming from an Axl Rose fan, but, in between every song, she would stop for 5 minutes to tell us all about, how mad she was at something she read online, or how crappy the tour is going, or what. I mean, it was just, and I remember saying to a friend of mine at some point, and Jesus Christ, I feel like I'm back in 1991 seeing GNR again, except Axl gave a shit to do the songs well in between the ranting,
Yeah.
So that one's
rants usually had good reason to it. Usually wasn't like, I'm just gonna bitch and moan about this. It's
right. But, yeah, and this woman, absolutely everything that came out of her mouth was like first world problems. It was like, oh, and then the buses were late and whatever else. It's like, lady, we didn't pay to hear that. Why don't you? And not even oh, woe is me, all this happened, but like, we're happy to be here. It was just like, and this is how you all ruined my life by wanting to pay to see me. So, and like I say, she could have just been having a bad night. I don't know. But it's number one with a bullet. I've had other, you go to a show and the band doesn't sound anywhere near as good as you want them to, or, or that thing where it's a mixture of those things where you go and they, you can tell they're just going through the motions. Like, I've seen shows like that, but that one particular show was just a perfect storm of shit. Like, it was just the worst show I've ever seen. And I've been, if I was to guess, I'd say I've been easily to over 1,000 concerts, and that's number one with a bullet, the worst one.
I was just, the first episode of this show I did, actually, I was telling the guest I had on, my worst one was actually 2 concerts, but it was the same band. So I saw Guns in St. Louis in 2017, and then 3 days later up in Minneapolis in 2017. And Deftones opened both of those shows, and I was standing there watching it, and I was fucking bored out of my skull. And I don't know if maybe the mix engineer had a bad couple of nights, but the bass was the bass was louder than everything else.
Yeah.
They put a shit ton of reverb on the singer's voice, and it just wasn't good. It was not good.
Yeah. Sound mixes and all that stuff. It's all, I've put up with, I've had a lot of shows. I saw U2 in 1992 at the Silverdome on the Zoo TV outdoor broadcast, and it actually, if you want to see part of that show, it was on the VMAs that night. They did, like, you know how they do the whole so and so's in Ireland on tour right now, and we're gonna go live. So they did that. And if you go on YouTube and look for U2 at the 1992 VMAs, the performance of Even Better Than the Real Thing, I was at that concert, and of course the mix sounds immaculate on that live broadcast, but in the building, dude, and U2 has some of the most iconic songs of all time, right? It's like halfway through, I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For. The mix was so bad that we're all like, oh, they're doing I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For. It was like that bad of a song mix. Yeah. Dude, let me put it this way. You'll see, if you go watch this performance on YouTube, you'll see there's this whole thing where they were talking to Dana Carvey, who was in LA at the VMAs, and he's talking back and forth with Bono. And, like, other than seeing Dana Carvey on the screens, like, we couldn't make out shit. Like, we couldn't tell what they were talking about at all. I got home the next day and watched the videotape that I taped the awards, and I was like, oh, that's what they were talking about,
Shit. Let's get into vinyls. I don't know where to start, but I remember you mentioning you have 3 original pressings of Bad.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I have a lot of MJ. But yeah, I have 2 original pressings of Bad, and then they put out a 25-year anniversary version of it, like 8 or 9 years ago, whenever 25 years was. They put that out, so I have that one too.
Did that one have Leave Me Alone tacked on at the end, or did they leave it off still?
Leave Me Alone was on the second pressing and going forward. So if you get a first pressing of Bad, which I have, it has the album ends with Smooth Criminal. And then if you get second pressing on, they Leave Me Alone is on the end after Smooth Criminal. So I have those two from 87, and then the one from 2012, it has the full album with Leave Me Alone on it, and then there's two other LPs of like demos and completed songs that didn't make the Bad album. Like there's a song on those other two LPs called Streetwalker that, in my opinion, absolutely should have been on Bad. Like it's better than some of the songs that made the album.
Right.
And then there's other things too. There's like a track called Al Capone that's like the home demo that Michael started Smooth Criminal with, so you can hear like how it progressed from being this song called Al Capone to being what you hear Smooth Criminal on the record. And there's some other B-sides and stuff on there too.
What are you listening to lately?
New material wise, there's a band out of Iceland called Kaleo that, well, actually I'm not even sure how to pronounce it. We think it's either Kaleo or Kaleo. It's Kaleo, and they came out about 5 years ago or so, and just really good straight up rock music. And they just had a new record come out probably about a month ago now, and I've been listening to that a ton. Other than that, it's been a lot of like reissues and just older things that I've been digging into. Like I got on this huge Violent Femmes kick last week where I don't think I listened to anything except for the Violent Femmes all week. And, they haven't had a new record for a couple of years, but listen to that a lot. Almost always have MJ and Prince and Elvis in the rotation. And then over this past month, I've been on a huge Sam Cooke kick, like listening to a lot of live Sam Cooke cuts. And, I never got to see him live. He passed away, 10 or so years before I was even born. So I never got to see him live, but there's a couple of really good Sam Cooke live albums out there I've been listening to a lot. So kind of all over the map, really. Rap-wise, I haven't really liked anything new rap-wise for, 10 years at least. But everything prior to that, I was on a huge Run DMC kick a couple months ago, and to the point where I'm sure everybody I know was like, yeah, I got it, Run DMC, cool, what else, so
I have about one occurrence a year, usually in the fall, where I'll just listen for like a week or 2 weeks straight. I'll just listen to nothing but Eminem.
Yeah, for sure. Well, dude, those first three Eminem records, I mean, they're fire.
Insane.
It's insane, man.
Especially the first Mathers LP. It's just every single song.
Yeah, I go back and forth. Whichever one I'm listening to between Marshall Mathers LP, the first one, and the Eminem show, like whichever one I'm listening to at the time, I always declare as the greatest rap album of all time. Like, if I'm listening to the Eminem show, I'm like, no, this is it. And then if I go and listen to Marshall Mathers 1 again, I'm like, no, wait, this is it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like splitting the finest of hairs, right? Okay, great. Like they're both that good. I mean, the first record's great in its own right because it's just groundbreaking. You're just like, what the fuck? Like you can do that on a record,
Yeah, exactly.
And then the second one is just goes way above and beyond the first one, and then the third one is the inhuman feat of making his third album as good as his second.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
not everybody can do that.
No, hell, man. But most people can't even put out a good second record. I don't know who the quote is attributed to, but I think I've heard people say Steven Tyler said it, and I've heard people say Eddie Vedder said it. I don't know who actually said the quote, but there's a quote around the music industry that says, you have your whole life to write the first album, and then you have 18 months to write the second one. And that's why a lot of people's second albums aren't that good. Everyone you've been playing those songs for on your first record, right? For like, 5, 6 years.
And years and years, yeah.
And every single person has touched it in some way. Oh, hey, man, you should take out that verse. Oh, it would be cooler if, you said this here. Oh, it would be better if there was a solo there, right? So these songs took forever to craft. And then you put out your first record, and the whole world is like, holy shit, that's perfect. And then you got a tour, do all the interviews and all that stuff. And then in the meantime, find some way to perfect, a follow-up album to the one that everyone agrees is genius. So that's why a lot of people shit the bed on the second album.
I guess one last thing I want to touch on before we get out of here is, I don't remember if I asked this or not last time, but are you one of those people, you've made your peace that GNR is just not going to do anything?
Oh, yeah, for sure. It was almost like the 2016 events was like closure for me. Once 2016 came and went, and it was clear that they still have no interest in producing anything new at all, and not even changing up the set list. I mean, if you take an honest look at a GNR show from 2016 as opposed to 2014, the differences in the show are that Duff and Slash are back, and some songs are in a different order. Other than that, it's the exact same show, that they had been doing since 2006 or 2002, really. So once,
and Axel shaved his stash,
right? Yeah. So once we got through 2016 and they had no interest in putting out new material, it's not even, there was a time, no pun intended, where I would get, super angry about it. Oh, God damn it. Why won't they do something? And, why don't they understand that, they could put out music? And now I just don't care. Now it's like, okay, well, I shouldn't care that much if they don't, I have the 5 records. I enjoy the greater majority of the material that's on them. I'm super thankful we got Chinese. I know it's ultra divisive, and some people hate the album and some people love it. I'm glad we got it.
That's my favorite Guns record, actually.
Yeah, me too. It's absolutely my favorite GNR record. It's my kid's favorite too. My kid's 15, doesn't know the whole history, doesn't have the whole baggage and all that shit, and he's heard every piece of material GNR's put out, and hands down, he would rather listen to Chinese than anything else.
And Catcher is my favorite song ever by anyone. So
yeah, I hear you. I'm that way with Better. Not my favorite song by anybody ever, but it's my favorite GNR song. And like I say, I used to get all angry about it, and now I'm like, it is what it is, man. It's his life. I say his because we all know who's running the show.
Right.
It's his life. It's his career. Whatever he wants. If there comes a day where we get new GNR material, cool. If not, there's so many artists putting out other music that I love that I just don't have time to waste on sitting around wondering if GNR is going to do anything new, right. And I saw GNR in 91, 92, 93. Then along with the whole world, went through the huge drought. I saw him again in 02, saw him several times in 06, 10, 11, 12, maybe 13. I'm not sure. I didn't go to the second residency in Vegas, so I don't know if that was 13 or 14. And I saw him 3 times on the Not in This Lifetime tour. I saw him in Vegas. They opened the whole tour here in Detroit. And then I saw him in Chicago, and it's almost like I feel like a coach walking the field. Good game, everybody. That was a good game. And we're all, I don't have any interest in going to see him play the same songs over and over and over again. And if they put out new material, great. And if they don't, I have a new Arrivals bin over in my vinyl section that, is constantly overflowing with other artists who are putting out new music. And I'll just enjoy that and keep GNR in the mix for if and when I haven't wore out the 5 albums of material that I have,
Yeah, except for Chinese, because that vinyl's already...
No, I have the European pressing, sir.
Fuck you.
Yeah, I know. I'm not the guy that owns several copies of the same album, except for a very few, but Chinese is one of them. The U.S. pressing of Chinese Democracy is a case study in how to not make a vinyl record. And I had been told for years, people for years were like, oh, you got to get the European pressing. It absolutely fixes all the problems that are on the U.S. one. And for years, I was just like, horseshit. I'm not importing one just because. And then in the pandemic, when we were all sitting around doing nothing, I said, fuck it. I'll get on Discogs and order one. So I ordered one from, fuck if I know, somewhere in Europe. And because of the pandemic, it took 3.5 months to get here. Mm-hmm. And but dude, I tell you what, the European pressing of Chinese Democracy sounds every bit as good on vinyl as that album's supposed to sound on vinyl.
Shit.
So, yep. It makes me really, really sad that the U.S. pressings sound like shit. But I'm glad I finally grabbed one of the European ones because the way it falls on vinyl, some of my favorite songs on the record are on the later half of each side. And and that's where all the problems are. The record, I don't know how much you know about vinyl, but the record has the worst case of intergroove distortion ever in the history of mankind.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that much because I got a record player as a Christmas gift like a few years ago. And
Right on.
Chinese was the first record I threw on, and it got... I think it got to like If the World or Catcher, one of those two, but it just started to like, I could tell like, what the fuck is happening here.
So I'll crash course you on this, but so you're only supposed to put about 22 minutes or so of music on one side of a vinyl LP. And where intergroove distortion really got its start in the industry was at the end of the 80s and the early 90s, when bands were really starting to expand out to how much room there was on a CD. Record labels wanted to save money. They didn't want to put out 2 LP versions of Warrant, Cherry Pie, Def Leppard, Hysteria, stuff that was 74 or 80 minutes of music. So they would just say, well, fuck it, cram it on one LP. Right. So you end up with like up to double the amount of information you're supposed to have on one side of the LP. And there's ways around that. You can get what's called a microline stylus that's like super, super microscopic, and it will really get in there and get those grooves in those records. But what happened with Chinese is they did put it on 2 LPs, but whoever was mastering it paid zero attention to it, because there's time-wise, there should never be a reason for those grooves to be too cramped and cause that distortion because the grooves are too close together. But somehow, not only did they manage it, but they managed it on the last song on all 4 sides of the record. And it's, I'm sitting here I own just over 1,400 albums. And I have a ton of stuff from the late 80s and the early 90s that I've had to find workarounds for because of that intergroove distortion. Out of all of these records, Chinese Democracy, the American pressing, has hands down the absolute worst intergroove distortion out of every single record I've ever played in my house. So it's just another joy of being a GNR fan and a fan of that record, And dude, the CDs aren't even good. If you look at the CD, I don't know if you've ever looked at the booklet for the CD, but the lyrics are all screwed up.
I never managed to find a CD of Chinese, actually.
Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible. There's like, you take a song like The Blues. I refuse to call it Street of Dreams because it's a terrible name. But like, whoever copied and pasted the lyrics, there's like part of the second chorus is in the middle of the verse of this. Like, it's just insane. Like, it's just, not to mention the fact that all of the liner notes on that record look like a 12-year-old did it with Microsoft Paint. Like, it's just, I did read the liner notes, and you're right. If you Google the Red Hand cover, that one is right on the CD. Not only is that right, but there's a really good essay from Axl inside the Red Hand CD cover that is it's not in the vinyl and it's not in the bicycle cover. But there's a big essay from Axl that more or less is like, hey, sorry, the record's late. Like, here's all the shit that I did. Like, it's a really good essay about the album from Axl, and it's only in that one version of the CD, and it's like crazy hard to get. It's like even way more rare than the bicycle CD.
Wait, would I be able to find that online? Because I'm actually super intrigued right now.
Yeah. I bet if you can edit this out, obviously.
Right.
Hold on one second. Because I used to have one, and I personally scanned in every page of the cover so everybody else could see it. Because it's a long story, but I had a friend of mine that worked at the record label, and he gave me a copy of it, so I scanned in the... oh, that's funny. If you Google it, the first thing that comes back is my picture of it sitting in the thing. But yeah, if you Google it, you should find a thing that's got all of the liner notes on it. But yeah, there's a whole huge essay. Like it would be where the gatefold would be, like it's in the center of the album. Mm-hmm. But yeah, if you poke around the forums or whatever, you'll find it.
Just what, Chinese democracy liner notes?
No, you got to specifically search for Chinese democracy red hand cover.
Okay.
And because it had a much cooler cover to it. It's a whole thing. There was originally supposed to be 3 covers, and
if I remember correctly, was there a limited number of red hand covers?
Oh God, yeah,
that were in distribution. I think that, and then there was either the grenade or a panda or something like that.
No, there's a lot of bullshit that goes around about this, but I'll just tell you the actual story. So, so originally there were going to be 3 covers. There was going to be the bicycle cover, there was going to be the red hand, and then there was going to be a grenade cover. The grenade is in the liner notes of all 3, and so is the red hand, but like the cover art was going to switch. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay, so the bicycle cover is the one that you could just go buy at Best Buy, like when the album came out. And then the red hand CDs, the only ones that exist, were given to back when the record industry could support reps, like actual reps that like went out to stores to like set up promos and give away stuff.
Right.
The reps got boxes of those CDs where it had the red hand cover. And then the grenade cover, people claim that the same thing happened, that there are boxes of them out there, but that's horseshit. The only grenade covers that are out there are like 2 or 3 mock-ups that were made like for the record label. Mm-hmm. To be like, by the way, I'm sending you in the forum, I'm sending you a link to a thread that's got, or to a page that's got all those, the cover art pictures I was talking about.
Word.
It's awesome. Somebody put my pictures on their website. And that's funny. So anyways, you'll see it when I just sent you the link. But so that the grenade cover does exist, but it was only made as promo stuff, and that's it. The red hands were never sold, but are out there. And then the bicycle one is the one that you can find. I shit you not, dude. I'm sitting. I have 2 sealed copies of the bicycle one sitting on my my table where we all play records together every Friday night, because like the common bicycle cover one, because I just leave them there because it's a conversation piece. People always pick it up and they're like, "Oh, Jesus Christ, Chinese democracy,"
I hated that record for so long. After I discovered guns, and then I read up and discovered what had happened after Slash left, and all that whole
I know it. I lived it.
I came in 2012, so my wait wasn't. I didn't have to wait at all.
Right? Yeah. God damn you.
I didn't.
What? Tell me what life's like. Tell me about the good new days.
Still not very good, but all right.
Yeah. At least you came in at 5 albums instead of 3.5.
I came in at 5 albums and a reunion 4 years later. So.
Yeah, you walked in the door right at the right time.
Yeah, their show at Soldier Field on July 1st was actually my first major.
Oh yeah, I think you and I talked about this. I was at the next show.
They played I think you said the first. Fernando let you guys into the pit or something.
Yeah, which was cool. Yeah, he saw us. It was funny. We were sitting like 3 rows off the floor, and he recognized me just from having hung around the band in the past. And he goes, "Hey, what are you doing all the way up there?" And I said, "So we're not bad. We're 3 rows off the floor. We're good to go." He said, "Oh no, how many people you got with you?" And I was like, "Dude, I got like 10 people with me." He was like, "All right, we'll gather them up." And I didn't ask her anything. He just was, gather up your people. I said, "All right." He took us down and gave us like security bands for the pit and just let us into the pit. And we got to watch the show from like 5 feet away instead of, I don't know, several hundred feet away. It was very nice of him.
Yeah, that was. But
I'm sure every time I post about how much I hate GNR, or not hate GNR, but anytime I critique GNR, he's probably like, "This son of a bitch."
This motherfucker.
Yeah.
But on the Chinese thing, though, I discovered the band in 2012 and found out about all that. Up until about 2015, 2016, I hated Chinese and I refused to listen to it and just all this shit. And one day I decided you know what? I'm going to take the politics and all the drama and all this bullshit surrounding it. I'm going to separate that and just like listen to the songs, they're not bad songs.
No.
Everybody wants to shit on Chinese because it's this. For obvious reasons, it was late, and Axl was being Axl for 15 years, and I understand that. But like,
right. The two reasons why people hate Chinese Democracy have nothing to do with the music that happens between the time you push play and the album ends. It has everything to do with the fact that the perception out there, and perception is reality, the perception out there that Axl Rose is a complete and total asshole, and Slash isn't on the record. That's the two reasons why people don't like Chinese Democracy. Look, I have people over to my house every single Friday to spin albums, and we have been doing this for almost 10 years now. Every single time the subject of Chinese Democracy comes up, someone will make a joke and fucking Chinese Democracy, terrible album. And every single time the conversation goes exactly the same way. I say, oh, really? Well, when you listen to it, what didn't you like about it? And the exact same phrase gets said every single time. Oh, well, I didn't listen to it. Okay, well, then get a cup of shut the fuck up and listen to the record before you're going to critique it, right? Like, right. If you don't want to listen to it because Slash isn't on it, or Axl's a dick, or that time that you went to a GNR show and they took 4 hours to come out, that's fine. But don't call it a piece of shit album if you haven't heard it. You know, you don't know what you're talking about. And furthermore, every person that now this is casual fans. I'm not talking about the people that sit around on the forums like myself. I'm not insulting anybody else who have nothing better to do than discuss the same GNR topics over and over and over. I'm talking about regular casual music fans.
Right.
Everybody I've ever convinced to listen to at least one or two tracks is like, shit, that's not bad. You know, so but again, Axl Rose created that bed, and that album's got a lie in it. You know what I mean? It's not my job to go around and sell that record. The son of a bitch wouldn't even do interviews when the record came out. Why the hell should I go around trying to sell it? You know, like
I thought the lack of interviews was because I thought it was because Geffen or Interscope or whoever released it botched the promotion.
Well, you know, depending on what day of the week you ask Axl Rose, he's going to tell you how many different people is everything is someone else's fault. You know what I mean? So,
you know,
let me put it this way, dude. If it was me and I put my heart and soul into that record for whatever 8 or 11 years or however long you want to say it took to make it, and the record label fucked it up, you know where the first place I'd go? Television. I would go out on the Tonight Show or Jimmy Kimmel or wherever and sit the fuck down. And when they're like, you know, oh hey, so the record's out, I'll be like, yeah, and Geffen's a piece of shit, you know, or Interscope or whoever. You know what I mean? You know, grab some headlines, man. Oh, Axl Rose calls out fucking label on, you know, Jimmy Kimmel Live or SNL or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, dude, fucking show up on Weekend Update, man. You know, on SNL. It'd be, you know, here were the list of things that were screwed up less than the Chinese Democracy release, you know, as Axl Rose. And then have them slide in. The whole world shits their pants and it becomes a viral moment, right? You could do all that, or you could just sit in your mansion in Malibu and complain about it and blame everybody else. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, I know what you're saying.
So my thing is, like, if you're not going to go sell your record, I'm sure shit not going to. The only reason I even bring it up is just from an intellectual standpoint. Like, if somebody, you know, if somebody's at my house and they say, oh, it's a piece of shit album, I go, oh, what don't you like about it? And I can almost say it with them. Oh, well, I didn't listen to it, you know, because I do the same thing, man. There's plenty of, like Creed. I fucking hate Creed, man. They're like the band. Creed is the one band that if I could light them on fire and have them never happen in the history of music, I would. But you know what, though? Dude, I've fucking heard Creed shit. You know what I mean? Like, I don't go around putting down Creed. When their third record came out, everybody I knew was like, dude, this is the one. This is going to change your mind. You're going to like it. I didn't go buy it, but I borrowed it from a friend of mine and gave it an honest listen, you know, because what if I'm missing out, you know? And now I can definitively say that whether it is a piece of shit, and I'm sorry that I listened to it, but I did that. You know, instead of just going around telling people that it sucks without knowing what I'm talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, Chinese is my favorite GNR record. If somebody asks me about it, I'll tell them, but it's not my job to sell it, you know. I don't work for the band.
You've done a good enough job selling it over the years on the forums.
Yeah. Well, that's a whole different level. As you know, GNR fandom is a whole different level.
We're not normal fans.
No. Dude, I've been on forums for some of the most divisive acts in the history of the world. You know, like I made reference earlier to the great split between Roger Waters and Pink Floyd. Roger Waters and David Gilmour fans are more civil than GNR fans are. You know, and Roger Waters and David Gilmour are guys in their nearing their 80s that hate each other with a living passion, and their fans feel like they have to also hate each other because of that.
I thought they didn't.
Oh, dude, go on Pink Floyd's Facebook page. Go on Pink Floyd's page. Go on Pink Floyd's Facebook page and find the most innocent post you can find on Pink. You know, hey everybody, here's a concert poster from when Pink Floyd played here in 1973.
Here's some lost lyrics written by Syd Barrett.
Yeah, inside of 5 comments, you're going to see people threatening to murder each other, and those people are more civil than GNR fans.
I think the downtime kind of kills the forum too.
Oh, dude, for sure.
I've just noticed, at least not in this lifetime, because that's really the only tour I've been on the forum for. But I'm just breaks in between legs. It seems the longer the break is, the more insane the topics.
Oh yeah, dude. There's nothing to talk about, man. You know what I mean?
There's nothing to talk about, so we're gonna, Slash did a video game soundtrack. Like, good for him,
right?
Doing something he wants to do, but I don't give a shit.
You know, there's only so many different ways you can discuss Axl Rose's 30-second cameo in a cartoon. You know,
yeah. Hey, that's 2 cartoons.
You know, and in defense of the GNR fan, my bad. That's, you know what? I'm a dick.
Not a real fan.
I didn't. I cut his cartoon productivity down by 50%. But I think I joined the GNR forums probably around like 2001, 2002, somewhere around there. And, for years, we all tried to be cheerleaders and have constructive conversations about things. Of course, back then there was always, I'm a longtime defender of Robin Fink. And so, there were years where I'd just get my head caved in, I'd be like, hey, everybody, I was driving my kid to preschool today. And people would be like, oh, did you drive him off the road with your stupid Robin-loving self? Like you get shit like that, You'd have toxic shit like that go on, but it was more joking than anything. It was more like, I'm going to make fun of you because your tastes are different than mine. And of course there was always people who do, oh, you guys are all fucking nuts. This isn't really GNR, all that shit. All that shit went on. But it was always lighthearted and whatnot. And now it's got to a point where it's like an idle hand situation. You know what I mean? It's like, what does anybody have to talk about?
Yeah. And you meant like just throwing barbs like that and joking. And I consider myself pretty good at being able to tell whether somebody's over text, whether somebody's fucking with me or not. But
yeah.
I've noticed that getting worse over the years. I'm not going to name names. But I've had a few people just blatantly shit on me because I had a different opinion.
Dude, GNR fans, there is a certain cross-section of the GNR fan community who has no idea how to be civil to each other and or where lines are. Like, dude, I could spin your head with shit that went on before you were involved that you wouldn't believe. Like, in the time you've seen on the forum, not that you were looking for it, but have you ever seen a picture of my son on the forum? No. It's because there are other people in the GNR forums that like admins and mods and stuff who have had their own personal pictures like hunted down, taken and used for terrible things on other sites. And so my son is 15 years old now. My son is older than my time on the forums is older than my son is. And never once have I posted a picture of my son on the forums. Dude, that's toxic. You know what I mean? Like, I shouldn't be like, oh, I can't post a picture of my son on a music forum because some other fan will not know where the line is and do something with a picture of my kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I fucking hate this band. I hate them so much. That's how I'm going to end this.
Yeah. You should make that the title of this episode. Guns N' Roses. I fucking hate this band.
All right. I appreciate you taking the time. I know we went a little longer.
All good, brother. It's one thing about GNR music in general. I could talk for days and days and days and days. So I'm just happy you had me on, man. And hopefully your listeners will dig it. I'm sure There's going to be a certain cross section that's for GNR fans. There's probably actually anybody who's not a diehard GNR fan is probably going to hear me and you talking about this shit and be like,
They're lying.
Yeah, those two guys are making it up. No, we're not. It's sad, but no, we're not.
All right, see ya.
See ya.